What's going on, Colts Nation? Or how about just Nation? Because I know a lot of you ain't just really Colts fans. A lot of you are fans from other teams around the world. Yes, around the world. I'm pretty sure I got guys from Brazil and Argentina and stuff like that are part of my Patreon. So that's really, really cool. Right now, looks like we got Loyalist. We got and Joe in here. Thanks for being here early, guys. As you can see, I put myself through a ringer for you guys. Bringing y'all content and getting you information that you want to know. Oh my goodness. I had a lot of fun at camp today, but wow, the sun was out. And you know what's really upsetting? Is the fact that right after practice got over with, cloud cover started rolling in. Not a single cloud in the sky the whole time we was in the stands. Get baked by the sun, and then practice gets over, we start to walk out, getting ready to do our filming, and clouds start rolling in. And then by the time we were on the road, it was like 75% clouds. I was like, what the heck is this BS? You know?
Well, you'd have still got hurt. You just wouldn't have seen it coming. That's the only difference.
Yeah, well, probably. But still, yeah. So, Colts camp was really interesting today. A lot of good stuff. I like I said in a tweet, I met Tom Pelissero today. I didn't get a picture taken with him because he agreed to join my video after practice was over. And he said as long as I waited on him. And I waited 2 hours, but he was 2 hours after practice, but still, you know. He's still talking on NFL Network, so I was like, yeah, I think I'm done waiting. I need to get home, find some aloe or something. So it is what it is. Still got a great guest in Joel Erickson from the Indy Star, and he gave some insights actually. Insights about Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz. So he was talking to us about the injury and the surgery. And he said that he had spoken personally to somebody that knew their stuff and said that, yeah, when you have a surgery like that, they go in there. And when you talk about complications, they're talking about other damage that loose bone might have done while it was in there moving around, you know, and that could cause problems. And there was no other damage done other than just the loose bone that needed to be removed on both guys, both Wentz and Nelson. And they said that they figure it's 2 weeks for the stitches to heal up and get taken out, and then they could start, you know, depending upon how much pain management they have, they could start, you know, rehabbing and practicing and stuff. And that they honestly believe it's going to be closer to the 5 weeks of both of them getting back than the 12. So they legitimately could be back as reported week 1, you know. So that's some interesting news. But with and honestly with Quentin Nelson, I think it's needed. The Colts offensively, without their starting center, starting left guard, and starting left tackle practicing today, the run game was not that good. The defense was there. They stopped them up pretty good on the run, but they held up in the pass protection. There was some pressure. But Eason, I think, ended up 9 of 12 on the day. No interceptions. Had 3 deep passes. Completed one right off the fingertips of T.Y. Hilton. It was like a 60-yard bomb. He, like I said, no interceptions. Had some checkdowns. Went through progressions. It was the best he's looked all since camp started. As a matter of fact, all of them did. There was one interception, and that was Jalen Morton. and that was really late in the day, like the second to last play of practice. Um, but the guy who stood out the most, Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal had 3 massive catches. I just saw on Twitter that the Colts actually tweeted the whole view of that play. He put Kenny Moore on skates. I mean,
that was an amazing.
Oh my good, and Colts fans know Kenny Moore's a damn good cornerback, and I mean he put him on skates, and the ball was a back shoulder throw. He turned around perfectly, caught it, went down in bounds. Great play. He also had a deep crossing pattern, which Eason hit him on. And then he had a short curl route, which Eason hit him on.
I'll tell you what, that one with Pascal on Kenny, though, I know they call it a double route or whatever. He put Kenny in the spin cycle. I mean, that thing looked like he went 3 or 4 different moves to get. That was beautiful.
Oh, it was. It was. Kenny didn't know which way was left and which way was right by the time, Pascal was beside him, and gone. I was like, wow. And it happened right in front of me, too. And I was just sitting there like, what? But that ain't the first time or the only time that Kenny got burnt. The first time Kenny was on T.Y., Kenny got the best of T.Y. Hilton. And there was some grumbling from the crowd. And I'm like, why? I mean, that just shows that Kenny Moore's a good defensive player, that he's able to keep. But the second time, T.Y. got one over on him and caught the ball with Kenny draped over his back. All right?
Yeah.
And T.Y., of course, in his traditional way, jumps up and like he just turned into, the Incredible Hulk or something. And Kenny's sitting there on his knees, leaned back, just clapping, because he knows when someone does a good play, he's going to celebrate. It's his own team, This isn't, I dislike you because you're offense or I dislike you because you're deep. We're on the same team. Obviously, play your butt off and try to do your job properly. But if a guy succeeds against you, that's good, Yeah. Because you know how good you are. If they're able to succeed against you, that's always a bonus. So,
I will. Eberflus was very accurate when he said, "He goes, you know what? The defense does something good. Nobody claps. Nobody cheers. The offense does something good, and you think we'd won a playoff game or something."
Yeah, that is true. One more thing, I have noticed Ben Banigou. He does get plays in. He got a sack today, and this sack, I'm surprised he wasn't pulled off the field because he ran right in to Jalen Morton. I mean, ran right smack into him, chest bumped him. That's how. I mean, it was a sack, because they bumped chests. He had his arms out wide, I ain't go, but they definitely contacted. And you're not supposed to contact at all, and they contacted pretty good. But yeah, I'm noticing, yes, Ben Banigou is flashing, but he's flashing with the third strings. Okay, if you're flashing with the third strings, when are they going to start putting him with the second and first stringers? Or see what you could do, because you could flash all day against third stringers, and that don't mean jack. Not in the NFL, Most of those third stringers won't even be on the team,
right.
Come August. So I don't understand that.
Well, he can't really work against the first stringers because they're all on medical. No, but you know what I was wondering, and I don't know. When they were in the shells, there was a whole lot of mixing and matching. I mean, you had a basic idea of what your first string group was. But, I mean, was there a lot of interchanging and stuff with the guys today?
Oh, yeah, especially on the defense. There was a ton. Isaac Rochelle played one tech. Okay, he's been a defensive end his whole career, and they threw his butt in on one tech. All right, and actually did pretty decent. Got a little bit of pressure and plugged a hole on a run, so and forced a run outside, which was then cleaned up by Taekwon Lewis, who was sitting outside of him. Um, it seems like the starters though, when it comes to pass rush, is what they're running with. From what I was noticing today, was Pay, and then you'd have Pay, Buckner, Stewart, Toure, and that four setup. That looks really good. That
Yeah.
starting four looks really good. On the offensive line, they were flipping people around all over the place on especially on the center left side. You know,
Yeah.
with all the starters out, they were just moving people in and out. I think Chris Reese started uh, at center. No,
Really?
no. Chris Reed started at left guard. Penter was at
Okay.
center.
Yeah.
Penter was at center, and then Holden was at left tackle. But they obviously they moved a lot of people in and around trying to find something. But it was surprising to me that patchwork of guys was able to hold up the pass rush, because the passing game was very, very good today. Very good. Like I said, a lot of there was more downfield passing,
Yes.
but there was still a lot of checkdowns too. You know, and
Hmm.
that shows that guys are getting through their progressions and not just going straight to their checkdowns. That gives me hope. That gives me hope, not just for Easton either. Ellinger actually played pretty decent today. All the quarterbacks did. I was very surprised. Even with pressure in their face, they were doing good. Um, so,
And would you agree? I mean, it just seems like these guys. I mean, week one, nobody's been in this situation. I mean, it just seems like the fan base, or a lot of us, were just expecting a whole lot from these guys. And between the two of them, they have what, 32 snaps, and that's all practice snaps. I mean, would you agree that their progression is I mean, every bit of what you could hope for in this situation?
yeah. Especially the offensive line and the quarterbacks. I think the progression on both of those sets are really, really good. EJ Speed looked really good sitting there playing Sam today. Pump 35. What up? He says, Yo, Law, how does Fisher look? I know he's just doing stuff on the side, but does he look stiff at all? And would you personally go Holden or Tevy? Now, first off with Tevy, or with Fisher, I didn't see him practicing today. This was the first time I was at practice. I didn't actually see him out there. Now, obviously, he wasn't practicing when I saw him before. He was just doing, kind of stretches and warm ups and runs and things like that. But I didn't see him out there at all today. I might have just missed him. Maybe Sam saw him, but I didn't see him at all, and that's weird. Normally, you see him before they start, early in practice, right? Beforehand, doing the runs and stuff before they actually start doing their team drills. Usually, when the kickers are out there practicing, and
Hmm.
I didn't see him at all. What I did see was during that period of time. Oh yeah, your other question, Pump. Would I go Holden or Tevy? Right now, either or. I think they're both about equal. Both of them have weaknesses on one thing, and another has a weakness on another. You get what I'm saying? So one's not as good against the power rush and stuff like that, and the other one's not as good against that speed rush on the outside. So pick your poison. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's how it is. He says, great work getting me through some door dashes. Yeah. Um, but yeah, while during that special teams period, um, both the kickers were doing amazing. I mean, amazing. I was watching uh, little goggles.
Pinheiro. Oh, right. Rigoberto.
Yeah, no, that's number 8. That's the punter. Rigo is number 8, the
Oh,
punter.
yeah. Right.
But
What? Oh, you're talking about the kicking?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Specs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3. He was drilling 45-yard field goals again, and they were going through both uprights. Not just his, but they were going through the other upright that's 10 yards away behind it. I mean, barely clearing it, but still. So that's 55 yards. Wow. And
Yeah.
we that was something we were not able to see last year because he just didn't have the leg strength. Sanchez, who you brought up, Rigoberto, he was punting some pretty nice stuff today. He was dropping the ball inside the 5, and it would just die inside the 5. Now, one of them, it hit wrong and just bounced right out the back side of the end zone. But most of them, they would die and someone would be able to just stop it, and it'd be dead inside the 2 or 1. One of them died with the dude's heels on the goal line. Like, not quite on the goal, but right, you know what I mean? He was like,
Yeah.
picked it up, and it's like, they would have been at the 1-inch line. He'd have left them at the, that's a safety almost guaranteed, coming up. So, any thoughts on wide receiver 5 and 6? Punk asks, and that's another good question. DeMichael did not look as good today as what he has in the past. Doolin was not practicing. I don't know what's up with that. Strawn was out there, but he was kind of a roller coaster ride. He made a couple really good catches that was just like, wow, where he burnt rock. I mean, burnt rock. All the way down the sideline and then dropped the ball. Hit him square in the hands and dropped it. I think he had 2 or 3 drops today. Strawn had. But there was he made a couple really good catches too. That's why I said it was a roller coaster ride with him. I don't know if you guys remember the guy from Haiti that played with the Colts during the Manning days and then went to Washington.
Pierre Garçon.
Pierre Garçon. Yes. You remember Pierre Garçon where he would make absolute spectacular plays that were almost impossible to do. Jump up, doing a 360 twirl with a tutu on or something, and catch it one-handed. But then if you hit him between the numbers, you just drop it. That's what I'm seeing with Strong. So, I guess you got to make it hard for him to actually catch the ball.
So I got a question. Did you get to see Naheem and how? I mean, how much were they putting on his play? Were they taking easy load on him today?
Nope. They did not take it easy. He did the majority of the punt returns. He returned one a good 45, 50 yards before he was even touched. He had some plays out of the backfield on 11 on 11s, but really, he didn't do as well as Mac did. Mac did better than him out of the backfield. Taylor dropped 2 balls today. And that was something that we was like, what? That was something we haven't seen a lot of, is Jonathan Taylor dropping a pass. But he did. You got any questions, Joe? You've been sitting there quiet, man.
Well, I'm just letting you go through and give us a breakdown here. I mean, that's all good. The only question I was really in the back of my mind, there's been chatter out there lately here with some jerk in the media was at a Bears press conference and asked Nick Foles if he would want to be traded to Indianapolis. And I'm like, I got into an argument with somebody I'm not going to name about this whole issue where, Frank Reich hasn't talked to the guy. Nothing at the team level has been discussed on either side. Mm-hmm. So where's this stuff coming from? Because me personally, I mean, I like what I'm hearing, what you're saying about the way Eason looks. Because if Carson Wentz is going to come back, say, week 1, even if he's out 2-3 games, why would you spend draft capital on a third round or a third string quarterback?
That's a good point. All right, and it's funny because I watched that, and his reaction, Foles' reaction, he had nothing but good stuff to say about Frank Reich. I get that, and he should, because he kind of hand walked him right to a Super Bowl, But he also said, right now I'm a Chicago Bear, and I gotta be focused on being a Bear. So he didn't really answer that, and Frank Reich pretty much said the same thing. He had nothing but respect for Nick Foles, but Nick Foles is a Bear, and he coaches the Colts. They can't talk. They can't do nothing like that. And right now, Wentz is their guy. Wentz is he reiterated that. And that's how I felt about it. That exact same thing that you just brought up. I was like, why are people bringing up Nick? I understand why people are bringing up Nick Foles. I get that.
Just connecting the dots.
Yeah, exactly. But this isn't the same situation. Then people bring up, well, Wentz is going to get hurt again. Well, we have a second-year quarterback that seems to be progressing pretty good. We got a bunch of young guys. Granted, none of them really have any starting experience, but they all got to start somewhere, at some time. So, ride with what you got if you have any belief in them at all. And I think the Colts brass and the coaches have belief in the guys they got. I mean, they drafted Eason because they liked Eason. Even in a 4th round, it was something they liked. They could have went and got themselves somebody else, Late 6th, early 7th, yeah, they picked up Sam Ellinger. Yeah, a real late pick. Still could have picked up somebody else. But no, they picked him because there was something about him they liked, So let what they like develop and turn into what they hope they saw for the reason why they drafted him. And that's how I feel about it, man. I don't think the Colts should be going out and spending any more money or draft capital getting quarterbacks. They've spent enough already with Wentz. And
I agree 100% on that. And I was just getting ready to say, I mean, you're looking at a potential 1st-round pick and a 3rd-round pick for a guy that may or may not have had some question marks around him, but they went all in on Wentz. Why would you then spend even more draft capital in the same draft, assuming, on a backup quarterback that's not a 32-year-old guy who's backing up Andy Dalton, of all things? I mean,
yeah,
not that I don't like Nick Foles, but I mean, that's the reality of it. So it just didn't make any sense to me to hear any of that chatter. So hearing you talk about how Eason is getting reps with these guys, and he seems to be getting where we think he needs to be, that's good news, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I say, was he perfect? I don't see very many perfect games from any quarterback. They're very, very, very rare. So I will never say someone's perfect unless he has a 153 quarterback rating, right? Because that's perfect. And those are so darn rare that, you just so. But yeah, he's got.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
I'd like to add something on this quarterback thing. Another thing you've been hearing, and whether it's Wentz or whether it's Rivers or Jimmy G, I mean, everybody's like, well, the Colts need to get some veteran leadership in there. Okay, number one, we have Hum. Okay, I know not a lot of veteran leadership, but for this young group, I think he has enough guidance and knowledge. Okay, then you've got a coach that's played the position. I mean, you've got an offensive coordinator that has played the position. And then everybody else is sitting there acting like Carson Wentz. Okay, he's got this injury. What, did he just get vaporized or something? He's going to be there. You know what I mean? Week 2, week 3, he's going to be on a boot, but he's going to be in the ear. He's going to, he's going to be able to help out. I mean, it's like the Colts, a small percentage of the fan base, it's like they love this team, but they always want to change. They always want to, get something to replace something. I know.
They want guarantees now. That's the thing. The Colts have had a revolving door question mark at quarterback for the last 4 years. So I understand that they're on edge about the position. I get it, okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to settle down at some point, you know? And the Colts are trying to settle down with Carson Wentz. So let's see what happens, you know? I get we got a great team right now around whatever quarterback's there. And I understand that there's a window right now for the Colts, supposedly. But, I mean, you're only going to learn, as Loyalist says, you know, you learn from mistakes. And the Colts have made mistakes at the quarterback position by band-aiding it over and over and over, going out and getting band-aids. It's time to just let it heal and go.
I agree 100%. I'm 100% on that. And that's like you said, you know, it's not like they hauled, you know, Carson Wentz off the field on a slab or something like that. But you got people who are acting like that's what's going on. Now, there were some funny comments. I think one guy came in and said next step, you know, Wentz retires on August 17th. And so I know and obviously that was a tongue-in-cheek, you know, comment, but it's like, you know, I know the team's been through a lot with their quarterback situation. I realize that, but it's like overreaction theater here, folks. I mean,
yeah,
give the kid a shot. He's second year. You know, if he's got to come in for 2 or 3 games, you know, you're better off holding on to those draft picks in case something maybe doesn't work out with Wentz. But you're married to it. You're married to this for at least a year. You know,
so we're married to it at least 2 years because of his.
Yeah. The cap hit and debt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be in the Philadelphia Eagles position where I'm owing $20 million for, you know, dead cap because the guy's not on my team anymore. All right, so Pumpkin, and I'm saying Pumpkin because Pumpk, that just says Pumpkin to me. 35. Interested in what you think the safety depth chart looks like. And he says the Odom's talking a lot about wanting to play safety. All right, first and foremost, Odom can talk about wanting to play safety all day. He's played safety, backup, not starter, but he's played backup. The man is a whiz at special teams. That's why he's in the NFL. That's why he is on the Colts. That is why no one picked him up on a second-round tender. Someone could have offered a second-round pick to grab him from the Colts. No one did it. There's a reason for that, you know, because he is a special teamer. Can he play safety? Yes. But the Colts have good players at safety. Now, obviously, the rookie that they picked up at safety, was it the 5th round, I think? He hasn't played yet, you know. He still hasn't played. I don't know why. I need to look into that, find out if it's an injury or personal issue or something. But he hasn't played yet. I've seen Blackman out there. He's playing solid. Willis has been out there. I mean, those are your starters. Willis and Blackman are the starters at safety, period, end of discussion. I would really like to see our rookie safety, but I don't know what's going on. Odom has been out there playing safety. Odom was the guy who stopped at the 1-inch line on the punt today. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what he's paid. That's what he does, and that's why he's so damn good. You know, and there needs to be more respect, in my opinion, not only by fans about guys who do stuff like that, but he needs to respect the position a little bit more himself, I think. You know, because it sounds like, you know, that he's relying more. He was relying more on wanting to play safety, but he is damn good at what he does for the Colts. And the Colts are paying him like $2.5 million or something just to run down punts.
Yeah, I will say in his defense, though, you know, I mean, a lot of the talk that came from his camp was early on. I mean, I haven't heard a whole lot. I mean, it's like training camp started. He was professional about it. He's like, all right,
Yeah.
this is where I'm at. This is my job. So in his defense, there, I mean,
I have nothing but respect for Odom, though. None but
right,
respect, because the man is damn good at his job. But
yeah,
if he wants to be a starting safety, it won't be with the Colts unless some injuries happen, because there are guys that are just better at the position right now on the team than he is at doing that. But there's no one better at gunning than Odom is. Pumpkin says Sean Davis. Yeah, that's his name, Sean Davis. And then, of course, we got another Sean Davis from a team. Joe, would you give us a little bit of insight about that Sean Davis? I just thought about that.
I mean, he's. There's a reason that Pittsburgh let him go, but he's a typical Pittsburgh style defensive back. I mean, he's big. He's good. He's not the type of guy that's gonna. He's not the type of guy that's necessarily going to be a ball hawk, or who's necessarily going to be, somebody that is going to take away half the field for you or anything like that. But when it comes to my take on him and what I like about him is that he doesn't really give up yards after the catch. And they drill that a lot in Pittsburgh because they typically like to play zone.
Mm-hmm.
They have for years now, and that's been one of the things with those defensive backs in Pittsburgh since Bill Cowher was a coach. You need to be able to tackle if you want to play on this team, and so I think that's the main thing that he's going to bring is he's good at it. He's good at tackling in space, and that's going to anytime you've got that in your passing game. I mean, he's not going to be somebody that's going to light the world on fire, for you, but if you can prevent yards after the catch, you're doing your job as far as I'm concerned.
Sounds like he's a solid cleanup man, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of like the way Antoine Bethea was for the Colts for a long time, I would say.
How would you rate his run defense?
I mean, again, that goes back into those are the types of defensive backs that Pittsburgh likes to develop. Those are the types of defensive backs that Pittsburgh likes to draft. Those are the types of defensive backs that they like to keep on the team. Unfortunately, they probably would have kept him, but we were in cap hell this year. Absolute cap nightmare with the Roethlisberger, situation, and then Bud Dupree was up for a big payday, which, to be honest with you, I don't know why they didn't try to trade him last year to get something. But, it happens. But, yeah, so that's just my take on it. That's the kind they like those types of guys. And from what I've seen, Pittsburgh's always been good against the run. They preach that. That is the Pittsburgh way. If you can't stop the run, you ain't on this team. We don't want you because we're going to find somebody who's going to be able to utilize in the running game, because that's been their focus for, 20 years now, ever since Cowher came in there and started that whole thing again with, bringing the steel curtain back. So that's my take on it. So I think you guys have got a good one. Now, how he's going to translate to a 4-3, I don't think it's going to be all that much. It might be easier for him. To be totally honest with you. And there's not really that much difference in coverages between the two. Certain schemes, against certain teams, but really as a defensive back, he's not, going to be Troy Polamalu. He's not that big of a box guy or like a honey badger type of dude, but he's solid. He's solid, serviceable defensive back. It's just, I think Pittsburgh had too many difficult decisions to make this off season, and unfortunately he was a casualty of it. So I kind of excited to see how he does. I'm sorry we lost him. I'm sorry we had to lose the guy, because I think he's a very, very solid defensive back. It just was a cap casualty.
Pumpkin asked if he thinks we can match up with Seattle if Eason starts. It's still a little early, right? It's still a little early to get on the Eason train is just leaving the station. All right, I mean, just there. All right, we don't know where it's heading yet. Yeah, that's the problem.
So,
It's looking
somebody's going to
better.
have to get old Michael Terrazzo to tell him to get that thing going, Captain.
Right, right. Uh, I I like Eason, and I think we can. I think we can match up well with Seattle for the reason that Seattle's DBs aren't as good, I think, as the Colts defensive backs. And if the Colts offenses is playing as well as they are currently against the Colts defense, then I think that they would be able to put points on the board pretty well. Could it end up being a high scoring game against Seattle? Absolutely. Because Seattle's got an offense. They got weapons out there. They got Russell Wilson. But Eason, the only problem I have is how well is that offensive line going to be together when week 1 starts? Because if Eason's at quarterback, we need to have good protection for him, because currently right now, if he could stand in the quarterback, or if he could stand in the pocket and throw, get through his progressions and throw and not have to be forced out to do stuff like that, I think he could pick apart any defense in the NFL. But once you get pressure on him and force him out of that pocket, that's when turnovers happen. And that's a problem. So, Seattle's not known for their pass rush. I think they were like 30th in the NFL last year. They went and picked up the guy, was it Carlos from Cincinnati? I think is his name.
Oh, Lawson.
Yeah, Lawson. That's his name. Lawson's okay. He's not like a top 5 pass rusher by any means, but I mean he's a serviceable pass rusher. But you need more than just one guy, and that's all that I know that they have. At pass rush. So we'll see. I think the Seattle game will be interesting, but really, I'm waiting on the Carolina preseason game, because I think that's going to answer a lot more questions, just to see the Colts against somebody else, because Carolina's got a pretty decent offense and a pretty decent defense, depending upon whether or not a certain Sam Darnold's still seeing ghosts down south rather than over in New York.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair. I think that's another interesting, conundrum that you got with him, because I don't think the kid ever had a chance in New York. That team's just been a dumpster fire since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
So again with Eason, even if, and this goes back into kind of what we were talking about the last time with your running game. How well can the running game perform? How well, and this is odd that you say that about what you saw in camp today.
Mm-hmm.
That the running game didn't look too good, but the guys were doing okay in pass protection, which normally with inexperienced linemen, it's the opposite.
Exactly.
They want to play. They want you to pound the rock.
Uh-huh. That is. I thought that was very, very odd as well. But it is what it is. That's how it worked out. I think the Colts, biggest run play of the day was like 7 yards, which is odd when you got a guy like Marlon Mack or Naheem Hines or Jonathan Taylor, and the longest run play is 7 yards. That's kind of weird. But they were catching the ball out of the backfield and taking it, 7+. So again, it's one of those situations. You just you got to find what's working for that day, figure it out early, and ride it. Ride it till they stop it. That's what you got to do.
Take what they're giving you. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's why the Patriots did so well for so long. They hit you where you were weakest at, whatever they were good at, whether they were good at it or not. They just figured they were better at whatever your worst position was than you were. So and generally that's the truth. With how they played against the Colts. We weren't very good against the run, so what they do, they lined up 6 offensive, sometimes 7 offensive linemen at a time, and just said, "Stop us," and we couldn't. And then guys like Blunt would get 200 and some yards on us.
Yeah, wow. That guy's a truck, though. I always did like him. I liked him. It was sad when he left Pittsburgh, but I digress.
Yeah. Just out of the side, I know you like Najee Harris and you were excited about getting him. What are your thoughts about Connor?
I was happy for the guy. Let's just put it this way. That's a feel-good story.
Mm-hmm.
That's a feel-good, hometown guy. Hey, he grew up in here. He wanted to be a Steelers fan his whole life. He went to Pitt, hometown guy. Let's celebrate that. But at the same time, I think he would have been better served in a situation like what the Colts have, where you've got two, not necessarily, he doesn't even have to be like a Nick Chubb or brain for it. The other guy that's up there, the guy who played for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I can't remember his damn name now. That's bizarre because I'm in Browns territory right now, so I'm hearing it all year.
The woman kicker.
Yeah. I mean, I think he would have been better served in a backfield where he could have gotten some relief because you saw, that first year, and this happens with running backs too. That first year he was able to sort of carry the load. But as you go into the second year of that situation, and then Ben Roethlisberger got nicked up, and it was just too much. So I think he's a quality back. He's not a great hands guy. He's not really, what I would. I guess you could consider him like a power back.
Yeah.
He's a good all-around back, but I think he would have been better served in a backfield where they had somebody else who could step up from time to time, like a good third down guy that you could bring in to help carry the load. They did not have that at all last year. Snell, come on, man. I get it. You drafted the guy, you try to use him, but after a couple of years of that, watching that, it just wasn't happening. So he didn't really get the help I don't think he needed in Pittsburgh. But then as a number one running back, your agent's going to be telling you, well, you can get a job somewhere. You don't need these guys. And that's pretty much what happened. But I think he really is a type of back that he's not a bell cow. He's just not. He's a good, solid back. Don't get me wrong. And I like the guy. High character. You can't say, cancer survivor.
Yeah.
What else can you say about the dude's guts? Guts, courage, heart, all those good qualities. He's a high character dude. I'm going to miss him. It would have been nice to see him retire as a Steeler. But, again, it's a business. And they just didn't have anybody that could really help him out.
If they had a second guy there that would have been able to be a running back by committee like what you're talking about, do you think that would have maybe changed some of the concussions that he had and stuff like that, and maybe changed the outcome of what's going on with Connor right now?
To an extent, yes. That whole offensive side of the ball was a complete mess last year.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with the left guard. Now, I know you have said, you're not a big fan of how Villanueva has played of late.
No, he was a Pro Bowler before, damn good.
Yeah.
I think he really took some serious steps back last year.
He did. He looked like a turnstile last year.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that too is we haven't had like a left guard. And then the other guy, De Castro.
Yeah.
having him kind of go on a downward trajectory as well because of the injury, and then to say, you know, well, I think I might be done. That whole offensive line was just a train wreck last year, which I think is another reason why you saw Roethlisberger throwing, you know, check downs all the time last year. Real short passes, barely tried to throw anything down the field. I think all those issues and all the way that offense completely came off the rails at the end of the last year, I think it really all goes back to the offensive line.
Yeah. So Pumpkin, you was talking about Odom talking about wanting to play safety, and this is a perfect time to go back to that because it's that game against Pittsburgh last year where Khari Willis went down with a concussion himself right before halftime. George Odom comes in, and all of a sudden, Roethlisberger decided, you know what? For the first time all year, I'm going to start throwing deep, and I'm going to throw it right at Odom. And it worked every time he threw it, you know. Now, granted, the guy that he was throwing to was, you know, it wasn't Claypool. It wasn't Juju. No. It was the speedster, right? Yeah. So, and Odom, he just wasn't able to handle something like that. And when you got a guy back there, you need someone who can handle stuff like that, and be able to take the right angles to make the at least get to the point of where the catch happens, so you can prevent it and not just give up the catch and the touchdown as he runs right by you. But that's pretty much how the Colts ended up losing the game to Pittsburgh. Was, you know, Khari went down and Roethlisberger just felt really good about throwing to that side deep, and he did it a few times. And it is what it is. That game didn't turn around because Brian Hoyer throws a guaranteed touchdown, but instead throws it too short and watch Minka take it 90-some yards the other way.
Yeah. Minka Fitzpatrick, that guy's no joke. I mean, I can't believe. I think that was going back to your comment, your question about Sean Davis. I think that also had something to do with it. You've got Fitzpatrick on the team already.
Yeah.
He's going to command a real high price, and he's probably worth paying. But I mean, to go into that again with Pittsburgh last year, the other thing that contributed to all of that, I think, we also had a lot of drops.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of critical situations where Pittsburgh got themselves behind the eight ball because somebody dropped a pass that they should have caught. To where then you're in a situation where you can't keep anybody off guard. Where they're just going to tee off on the run. You get a leader that's going to tee off on the running game. Yeah, go ahead. He's just going to drop the ball anyway. Looking at you, Johnson. You know, I mean, that's got to get cleaned up this year too. So there were a lot of problems in Pittsburgh last year.
Speaking of problems in Pittsburgh last year, I'm not trying to hammer this at all, but it was just my honest opinion here, or question. When I think of Pittsburgh, I think of the classic, you know, old style Pittsburgh Steelers, go out there, be aggressive, bite fingers, do your job on the field, and do it as a hard ass, and don't showboat, right? That whole style situation. You know where this is going. Yeah. Then you've got the juice.
He talks for an hour and says absolutely nothing. But in the locker room, he's a different guy. And he will call these guys out. He expects a lot out of his people. But I think he's gotten caught up in a situation, too, where being that he's the coach of the team, he is the coach for, and they have the owner that they have. We have a thing called the Rooney Rule, which I'm not against by any means. But you have that sort of culture in Pittsburgh where, hey, you know, let's kind of – it has gotten kind of away from that, like that old style Bill Cowher, you know, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, ground and pound.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, you know, real hard-nosed. I mean, the way they played on defense, too. We wanted hard asses on the team. I think they've kind of softened up on these guys a little bit. Or they will tolerate it because it's a generational thing or whatever. And I think it's kind of bit them in the butt more than once. Uh, he was the ultimate. And you had, that whole situation with, with Bell wanting, what the hell was it, a $50 million contract or whatever. So I mean, culturally, I think that's also something that I think the locker room in Pittsburgh you've got maybe like some older guys who aren't feeling that or aren't thinking that way. You've got some younger guys who are coming in and not realizing where they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up in this situation where they go out and they do stupid stuff like that. And they create distractions for the team.
Yeah.
Media distractions. Yeah. I mean, nobody needs that.
See, that's the thing, and I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, quite the opposite actually, but it just seems like they've lost discipline, and then there's no players in the locker room, not Tom, no players in the locker room holding these guys accountable and taking it on themselves to fix it. I mean, like, your quarterback going out and just shredding the receivers individually, publicly on, to me, that's stuff that you handle in the locker room. I mean, that's locker room. Yeah, and it just seems like that now it's become more of everything we're going to do is going to be on social media. Everything we're going to do is going to be in front of the cameras, and I just football. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't played at a professional level, but it's just always been the locker room was the one who decided. And I mean, we hear Ballard say that all the time. That if he was to make a move, the locker room's going to, and the locker room's going to react. And I feel like from what I see as an outsider looking in, I just don't see that. And that was the thing Pittsburgh used to be known for. That I mean, Lynn Swan and Terry Bradshaw, but all these guys, if they had problems or whatever, things were dealt with in the locker room and then taken out and solved on the field.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I just
things started to change around a little bit with the Bell and the Brown and the Roethlisberger thing a couple years.
Mm-hmm. And this goes back to, I think, what we were talking about a couple of days ago on this show, where Loyalist, I know you believe this, you build from the trenches out. You build from the trenches out. And I think that's another thing that Pittsburgh lost, is that they were going after these real flashy guys like Antonio Brown. Well, not necessarily going after or targeting them in the draft or anything like that, but they were getting these real flashy skill players. Plaxico Burress was another one. He started doing that stuff when Cowher was the coach and he was out of town. They would not put up with that back in those days. You start pulling that stuff in Pittsburgh, you're out of town. I don't care how good you are, you're gone. And you're right. I think 100%. You're correct. They have lost that.
But when you agree that Cowher, it wasn't Cowher. I mean, okay, yes, Cowher didn't allow it, but the thing was he had the Jerome Bettises. He had the players in the locker room that he sat there and he could look at them and say, "Hey, get this under control, or I will." Type of situation.
Or I didn't even have to get to him because the other players would take care of it before Cowher would even have to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at a guy in particular, one that's really sticking out in my mind right now on the defensive side of the ball was James Ferrier.
Yeah.
That guy, I think one of the most underrated linebackers I've ever seen. I mean, and not just because he had a lot of intangibles, not just because he, to me, was a true field general. And you didn't necessarily see it because the rest of the defense was so damn good. And, they were all in. They all bought into the same philosophy. But that guy was a real leader in the locker room. And I don't know that they've had anything like that since maybe, say, like James Harrison left town.
That's what I was getting ready to say, Harrison.
That was my,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If that man ever told me to do anything, I'd just sit there and make sure I doubled down and did it twice as hard.
Right.
That man is highly intelligent. I actually got to meet him
Mm-hmm.
at Kent Bowl when he was up there. I was in Akron, and I have his jersey. Um, so I mean that's he's one of my favorite players. But that guy is also extremely intelligent, highly, highly, highly intelligent. And I think maybe Pittsburgh has tried to kind of I don't know how to say this without sounding dumb. I think they've kind of tried to be one of those teams that kind of facilitates this transition into like a new generation and tolerate the social media stuff and kind of embrace it almost to a point where maybe it's not a good thing. It's kind of
Well,
come
and
back to bite them in the butt. You know what I mean?
yeah, and the thing is nowadays, and this isn't just in Pittsburgh, it just seems like the player friendly coach used to be okay. We ran practices, but we rewarded them. No, now the player friendly coach is the guy that allows them 15-minute social media times, and doesn't come back and discipline the team. And like I said, it used to be player friendly coaches were men that they get garnered the respect, like Tony Dungy. He was a player friendly coach. He didn't have to sit there and threaten or or anything like that. He sat there and he dealt with you as a grown hey man, you know what I mean, and just said, you know what, I'm going to talk to you with respect, but you're going to sit there and you're going to show me the respect on the field and in the locker.
Yeah, I mean, when you have there's a certain type of there's two different types of player coaches. There's the player coaches where the players like you so much and respect you so much that they'll not do anything to embarrass you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the player friendly coach that is trying to make friends with these guys, and you're not their friend. And you can be, but your first job is to be their coach. It's like being a parent, you know. You're there to teach them and get them together for a goal. You know, you're like this big family, and the coach is your parent. You know, these coaches are your parents, and you can't be just their friend and be like, oh well, this is okay, or coddle them or something like that. You know, you can't do that. And there's too many coaches out there today that do that kind of stuff, and I don't know, man. I just can't see how you get by with it because your locker room ends up being, well, I mean, you can see it in a lot of teams. You know, it just becomes a real mess and toxic. You know, so I mean, you end up like Philly.
Well, that's a good point to bring up because then I really think it's got more to do, to be honest with you, with Rooney than it does to do with Tomlin. That guy's no BS as a coach. I mean, I know, I've been privy to some conversations that have been, and you hear things from, ex players and such about how he handles his locker room. I think it's got less to do with Tomlin and more to do with the high level ownership. To be totally honest with you, to be totally fair to Tomlin, because I mean, to me, I wasn't sold on Tomlin at first either because of the way I hated the Tampa 2. I absolutely despised the Tampa 2. But he's shown me over the last few years, he's gotten to me where I'm like, okay, this dude's all right, But the thing with him, he's a Hall of Fame coach. Never had a losing season. I mean, he's always in the conversation. So the way they are doing things in Pittsburgh is, they're putting themselves in this position where they're always in the limelight. They're always on national TV. And I think, there was a time, during the 80s and 90s where that was not the case. And that's when you had that still more old school mentality, even up into the last decade where you still had that. But now they're, a worldwide brand. And you don't realize just how explosive some of that stuff can be with the social media, with the sound bites, with the press conferences, with Ben Roethlisberger running his mouth on a radio show. You know, that stuff never really got out of Pittsburgh before. Now it's all over the internet. So you've got that component to it too.
So it looks like either my internet or YouTube was having problem starting about 10 minutes ago. Started dropping a lot of frames. It's the first time that's ever happened to me. I was dropping upwards to 87% of my frames, and even disconnected and reconnected. So I don't know how this is running right now. But guys, I had a lot of fun talking. Anyhow, I mean, we ran this over an hour.
Yeah.
And I again appreciate you here, Joe. I know this became more of a Pittsburgh thing over the last half an hour, but
Well, I don't mind answering questions and talking about it. I mean, just to go kind of back, really briefly touch on another point. That's one thing that the Indianapolis Colts have going for them right now is they've got a leadership, they've got a front office, they've got leadership where, and that was my main concern with all this chatter about Foles,
mm-hmm,
bringing a situation like that, potentially toxic environment into a locker room and turning the place into a freaking media circus.
mm-hmm.
You know, you've got that going for you in Indianapolis right now. You've got, in my opinion, what Pittsburgh had 10 years ago when it comes to that kind of thing. So count your blessings on that one.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's what Ballard was talking about when he first hired in. He's like, first thing I got to do is build a locker room. You know, I need a lot. I need certain types of guys. I got to have high quality character guys, and that's who I'm going to draft. That's who I'm going to go after in free agency. It doesn't matter what their talent is. If their character ain't on a level that I need, they're not going to be a Colt. You know, obviously, still going to go after talent, but they got to have that character to go with it. You know, so ton of respect to Chris Ballard, the GM, in that aspect, and yeah. So I'm probably not going to be going to another camp until probably Monday or Tuesday. Loyalist was talking about maybe Friday.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get tickets because I wasn't able to get any for Saturday. So
Okay.
hopefully I can get in some for Friday.
So we might end up doing a Friday live stream on Friday as well. But I appreciate, like I said, man, Joe, this was fun. I learned a lot. I have a ton of respect for a lot of organizations in the NFL because of their history and everything. And Pittsburgh's one of, I don't have some of the best memories when it comes to Colts versus Steelers.
He missed it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, I still respect that organization itself because of its history. So, and to be fair, a lot of the players that have came out of there are some of my favorite of all time. I mean, how can you not like a guy like Troy Polamalu? You know, it's just, that is what it is. The immaculate catch in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, you got all kinds of stuff that you got history there, and that's just, at least that's something you can hang your hat on a team. I mean, that's something else that the Colts have, but they're trying to build it through Indianapolis, and their history is 20 freaking years ago. It's not 40, 50 years ago, you know?
Well, I think it's coming for you guys. I really honestly believe so. It's kind of interesting how it's kind of been a transitional conversation, but I honestly think that Indianapolis, out of all the teams that I'm looking at right now, is in more like that type of situation. Obviously, they're on the 4-3. It's a little different.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like they're in a position to have that kind of team. Them and I hate to say it, the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it pains me to say that. It looks like those
I
two teams.
I haven't seen a team do a flip like the Browns have done the last 3 years in a long time. They were
I'll tell you another.
And then
Buffalo. And Buffalo's another team that's very what I like to call blue collar, nose to the grindstone type. Yes.
Even
willing to go through the slow bill.
Yeah, even with the flashiness of their quarterback and their wide receiver, they're still no nonsense guys. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can have skill and yet be humble at the same time, and that's what I like about them, and that's something that can bring fans to you. You know, whereas like teams like the Cowboys or the Chiefs or something like that right now, you're looking at and you're like, their fan base is all on them because there's a lot of talent there. But then you go out of their own, and they're some of the most hated fan bases and organizations in the NFL when it comes to other fan bases. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh's taken on more of a quality, almost like the Dallas Cowboys here lately.
Well,
whereas there's always some drama. There's always some BS coming out of Pittsburgh, and it's like, where are we at, Jerry World now? All of a sudden, I mean, I thought that was supposed to stay down in Dallas. We don't want that up here. And I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans who want those days back, and so that's another reason I think why this year, I do have family in Indianapolis, but I think that's one reason why this year I've started to follow more of what the Colts are doing, because I really like what I see coming out of Indianapolis right now.
And it just give you a heartburn from hell if you tried to do that with the Browns.
Oh, yeah, but I'm going to be stuck with it because I'm up here in Sandusky. And it's like, okay, yeah, you wear your Harrison jersey on Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, you might as well just take a body bag with you. What I mean?
I get it. But there's believe it or not, there's New England Patriots fans right here in Indiana who have wore those Patriots jerseys to Colts games. Okay, but to be fair, the majority of India, it's that whole Hoosier hospitality. We may not like the Patriots, we may not like the fans. Back in the day when it was Manning versus Brady and all that neat stuff, and Dungy versus Belichick, we would talk smack, but it never got ugly. And that's the thing.
Right.
It never got ugly, and I can respect fan bases that can do that, where that you could talk crap about another team or something like that, but don't let it get ugly. I don't want to see, what was that soccer tournament last month or a couple weeks ago, where it was like Italy versus England, and England, their fans just went nuts and started beating people up, man, and that's nuts. That's crazy.
Sounds like Philly,
right?
I mean, but honestly, yeah. To be honest with you, Cincinnati is another one that was like that. When I was down there, my mom worked down there for a lot of years, and I would go down there. The fans down there, if you were a Steelers fan, oh, dude, I got into a couple of fights in bars just for being a Steelers fan.
Wow.
I mean, they hate because their team's so bad. I mean, their team is so bad, and they've never had anything. So at least as a Browns fan, hey, well, we used to smack yins around back in the 50s and 60s. You know? We'll get there again. The Bengals have never been there.
Yeah.
And that fan base is really hungry, but there's a lot of that down there when it comes to Pittsburgh.
When Cincinnati, all they had to hang their hat on was Boomer Esiason and Ickey Woods and them guys, right?
No, hang on now. Let's don't forget about, the Sam Weinsch era. And they got to play a Super Bowl against the Niners.
That's what I said. The Ickey Woods thing.
But yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Our ages here quite a bit hardcore.
Yeah, but yeah, like you got, like the AFC North just always seemed to be the tough guys in the league. They always, I imagine, and I never had a dog in the race at all, but I loved watching Pittsburgh and Baltimore games just because you knew that Ray Lewis was going to come out there and you have all the hype, and it was truly some of the best rivalry games for decades,
That was Smash Mouth football.
That was grid
Smash Mouth football. I really think if the Colts can get their pass rush together, they're going to be just like that. They are going to be just like that with JT and Mac. If you can find a way to keep that backfield together somehow, with Wentz toss to slinging the ball. I mean, you guys, you got all the pieces. You got all the pieces. You just got to get them fit. You just got to get them to work together. That's it.
Yeah.
And stay healthy.
Yeah, stay healthy.
Yeah. Quit breaking bones and foots, damn it. It's the first time, first day in the last 3 days that we did not come out of camp and report someone broke something in their foot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I almost made a joke the other day about OSHA. I was like, well, we're going to restart our calendar of 1 day and see if we can get this thing to go for a couple 100 days.
Right. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining. I'm going to take myself a quick break before I join Ray Route stream, but this was the Patreon stream. I noticed I didn't see a lot of people in here. It was probably because of the hour change. I'm sorry about that, guys, but I had I got an appointment at 9 to join another stream, so I had to do it a little early. I'm sure everybody will be able to catch it later. Thanks again, Joe, for noticing and jumping on here. Of course, Loyalist, as always, man, I love your insights, love your thoughts as well. Maybe we'll do a live stream tomorrow, regular one, just to talk, just to the Colts fans and everybody else out there. Just kind of talk NFL news or something, But until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. We got Joe down there. We got Loyalist over here. And have a good one. Yeah, got a hit. And he took off. He said